What's up, fellas? My name is Jake, also known as Lost, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to get a gaming PC in 2022 despite what is going on with the graphics card market at the moment. I would also like to mention that if you guys are interested in building a gaming PC, I would also have some pre-builts I will mention at the end of the video. And yeah, now before we jump right in this topic, I would just like to quickly remind you guys to make sure to sub to my channel and turn on bell notifications and comment down below your thoughts on the video. And now with all out of the way, let's get right into it. First off, I've made these budgets based off of just general price ranges people normally go for when building a PC. These budgets will include cheap or entry level, which is around $500, a mid-tier PC, which is about $900, a pro tier PC, which is about $1,300 to $1,500, and then a high-end system, which is $1,900, and then a top-of-the-line gaming PC, while still thinking realistically for normal circumstances, which will be about $3,000. Also, keep in mind that these parts are not set in stone, and you guys are free to edit these as much as you'd like. You know, obviously, you might not get the right amount of storage you'd be looking for. Maybe you want to be on an Intel build instead of an AMD build. I'm just showing you guys some basic like a basic backbone of a PC that I'd recommend for you guys at these price ranges. And let's get right into it. All right, guys, so first off, we have that entry level PC, and right off the bat, first off, I'm using PC Part Picker to do all this, and you guys can ignore this. I'll explain why later. But first off, we have a Ryzen 3 3200G. Normally, this price should be a lot lower because my brother had one in his PC and he got it for about $100. Right now, it's marked up. I believe it's just because of the holiday season. A lot of it is going out of stock, making the demand higher for it, and like prices are inflating. But yeah, so you should expect to pay less than $500. Right now the total is $565, but that is a little bit over budget, obviously. But normally this should be a lot lower. It should be under $500, so just keep that in mind. Or you can just go with an Intel. You can go for an i3 or maybe a Pentium as well, and those would do just fine. And for this motherboard, I just have a basic B450. Just make sure your motherboard is compatible with the CPU you guys are getting. So say, for example, like the Ryzen 3, make sure that the motherboard you're getting is Ryzen 3rd gen supportive. If not, you might have to perform a BIOS update, which is a huge pain in the butt. And if you guys don't mind having to go through that process, be my guest, but I'm just letting you guys know ahead of time. Next off, we got some Corsair Vengeance LPX RAM, 16 gigabytes. I would recommend having at least 16 gigabytes nowadays. You could skim by with 8. But in an entry-level PC like this, I would mention, like, I don't know, 16 gigabytes will just help the process go a lot more smoother. And next off, we have just a regular SATA SSD for 500 gigabytes. That should be enough just to get started off with gaming. You can probably have a few games, some files, and you can always just get either more internal storage down the road, or you can always buy external storage too, like flash drives or hard drives. You know what I mean? And also, I just like to mention right now that this PC does not have a video card. You guys can see this right now. This gaming PC can actually game, but at very basic settings with like a fairly low FPS, but it still is playable and enjoyable. It's not a bad experience, but it does have a lot of room to grow. Like, say, you guys can always upgrade your CPU despite what motherboard you get, or you can even just add in a video card, even if it's just like a GT 1030, which can go for about $100 to $200. You can throw one of those in there, and that'll already game better than what it is now. This is just like the basics of getting in your foot in the door, and you know, that's just what you should do. And next, you just have the case. The case doesn't really matter at this price point. It just depends on like what your price range is and what you're looking for. I just threw in a PC case that kind of has everything. All right, airflow, RGB, at least 3 fans off the rip. You know, a basic PC case that costs $50. You can't really go wrong with that. Next, we just have our power supply, and right now you just got to make sure it's 80 plus certified. I just put in an EVGA in one. This one's good because it's really cheap. It's bronze certified and it's semi-modular, so there's less cables to worry about and you can have better cable management within your cheap PC case. Alright guys, next off we have the mid-tier gaming PC, and for this one I went Team Blue just because this CPU is a lot cheaper than the Ryzen options for this price range, and the CPUs perform just the same, like about the same as the Ryzen ones do at this price range. So it's, you know, it just makes sense to go for the cheaper option that performs the exact same. So for here, I have an i5 10400F, and I have it paired with the MSI Z490 motherboard, and you could obviously go with another option for another motherboard. I just went with this one. It's a little bit pricier, but it does run okay, and that's all that really matters. Next, we just got some more Corsair Vengeance once again, 16 gigabytes, also running at 3600 megahertz. This should be just fine. You could always go with the other memory sticks. Obviously, Intel CPUs they don't need the speed off of the RAM as much as Ryzen does. Ryzen needs higher clock speeds for their memory, but Intel doesn't as much, so you can easily find some better sticks around the same price. And next off, we have an M.2 SSD at 500 gigabytes. Same storage as last time, but it'll be running a little bit quicker, and that's what I would recommend. And in this PC, we actually do have a graphics card. Obviously, $350 is kind of pricey for a 1650, but when the price range is only $900 flat, $902, it's okay because this is enough to get your foot in the door. Obviously, prices are going to fluctuate throughout time when time goes by. So just make sure you're looking out for deals and stuff like that. But this one, this is how this PC is playing out right now. Normally, you probably could get a 1660 in the same price range. But right now, since obviously the graphics card market is expensive, you're going to have to go down and get a little bit of a cheaper one. But these ones are okay. Next, we have a 4000D Airflow case. Obviously, you can't really go wrong with this case. It's only priced at $80. It has great airflow. It looks nice. And yeah, not really much more you can complain about. Great cable management. I don't know why this is 500 watt. This should be the same power supply as last time. Same thing, just 600 watt bronze power supply. I don't know why I have it as a 500. I must have accidentally selected that one, but same difference. You already know. You don't really need to change the power supply that much. All right, next off, we are getting into the interesting bits of things. We have the pro level PC. In this one, the price range is right at $1364. And for this one, the CPU we have is a Ryzen 5 5600X. Great CPU for the price. It's under $300, and we have it paired with a B550 motherboard. You can honestly go with any B550 motherboard. They should all run fairly decent. Just make sure the BIOS is up to date and everything like that. Next, we have it paired with the same RAM as before. You could always go with different ones. I just have the same one because this one's just really basic and it runs really nicely and it's cheap. But you could go with some RGB versions, which are only a little bit more expensive or around the same price. Storage, same amount of storage with the same SSD as before. And now for the video card, we have a 1660 Super, which is only $680. Obviously, that's really expensive, but for this gaming PC, that is okay. That's pretty decent price overall. And then we have it paired with the Airflow case again, the Corsair once again, and then the same power supply as before because it runs fairly decent. Now we are in the higher tier PC. This isn't obviously like the best you can get, but this is a pretty nice gaming PC you can get for under $2,000. Right now, we have it starting with the Ryzen 7 5800X. This is a very good, very fast CPU. I would really recommend it. We have it paired with the Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro, and this is obviously an air cooler. At this price range, you could go with the water cooler. You could do either one. It's just whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you think looks nice. I just went with this one because I know it performs very well for an air cooler, and it's only $90. Next, we have it paired with the MSI MPG B550 Gaming Plus motherboard. This is just a really good ATX motherboard. It's only $144, but you could probably find another B550 or an X570 for around the same or lower or higher in price. Honestly, you should find it for around, this is probably like a good average price for next gen Ryzen motherboard. Next, we have 32 gigabytes of RAM. We've leveled up the RAM a little bit, and this one's only priced at $132. Storage, same SSD as before, but we also added on a 2 terabyte hard drive on top of that, just so you have plenty of room for gaming games in the future. And then for our graphics card, we have a RTX 3060. Obviously, this is a really good graphics card. This probably performs the same as about a 2080, a little bit less than a 2080, just putting it in perspective for you. And we also have it paired up with a Corsair 5000D airflow. Now, you guys are probably wondering, like, why is it with the Corsair cases? Honestly, just because the price is right and it has good airflow and it looks nice. As long as you don't completely choke your PC, you should be all set. And then next, we have to pair it with Corsair fully modular power supply for $95, 750 watt, gold certified this time. Obviously way better than the last power supply we had in there. All right, now we are on the next PC. This one is the Pro tier PC. This should be like the top of the line while still staying within reason. Starting off with the CPU, we have a Ryzen 9 5900X, and we have it paired with Asus TUF X570 motherboard. And for the cooler, we have an NZXT Kraken liquid cooler. It has 3 fans on it, so it has a pretty big radiator. You make sure you get the correct case to fit with that if you guys go with this. And next, we have 64 gigabytes of RAM. I just put it as 232 ones. I don't know why. I could have just put it together, but it should be around 200 bucks. 64 gigabytes of RAM. Next, we have the same SSD and hard drive as we did before, just because once you get to that one price range, storage won't really change that much. It just depends on your needs. You just make sure you have an SSD in there to keep the snappiness of your PC better than if it wouldn't, and just the amount of storage just depends on what you need it for. Next, we are pairing it with a 3080 Ti for the graphics card. Now, this is a really good graphics card. I could have went for the 3090, but I'd up the price by about $1,000, and it's not really that much worth it, especially now because games don't really run that demanding yet. So you should easily skim by with a 3080 Ti, well over the average settings. And we have it paired with the Lian Li dynamic case for only $180, and then obviously we have to get the correct power supply for it. If you guys get a mini Lian Li case or one of those, just make sure you're checking to see what power supply is compatible with it. Some are ATX power supplies. This one is an SFX. Now, that is the end of the build it yourself portion of the video. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's no Windows operating system selected at the end of it, and I didn't do that because normally Windows prices are about like $100 for a CD key, when you can just go on one of those websites and get one for about 15 bucks is what I did for every single PC I've built. Just make sure you're going to the right website and you're not getting scammed, but you could easily get like those cheaper keys for about less than 20 bucks and boot up your PC. And obviously people can scrap up another 15 bucks to get a key for their Windows. If not, they can just run the unactivated version. Now, after going over all the PCs, I would like to mention real quick, obviously all the graphics cards in this video are brand new, but I would recommend that you guys go check your used market, such as like Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp. Sometimes you can find a good deal when somebody's selling their old parts. Just make sure they are working, make sure you bring somebody with you and be safe with it, just so you guys don't get scammed. But sometimes I have found some good PC deals on there. Just make sure you guys are aware of what's going on. With the graphics card shortage happening, Prebuilts are actually a pretty good option when buying a PC. They are very easy to set up, as well as the PC is already built and has Windows installed. They offer warranty or protection. When something breaks, you only have to go to one manufacturer rather than a bunch, compared to like when you're building it yourself, because all the parts you're buying separately. When a pre-built, you're buying it through a company and they do all that for you. Also, obviously the biggest thing is the price, and right now you can find most of these PCs around the same price range, if not a little bit cheaper or a little bit more, depending on what you're looking for. Now we are on the pre-built section of the video. First off, I have a budget / entry level PC, and I went to the NZXT website for this one. You can find fairly decent PCs for a cheaper price than normal. This one doesn't have a graphics card, so it's kind of like the one we built earlier, but this one's priced at $800. It looks like this. Obviously it looks pretty decent. The specs for this PC are a Ryzen 5 5600G, 16 gigs of RAM clocked at 3000 megahertz, and 500 gigabytes of storage. Next off, we have this Skytech Chronos Mini gaming PC off of Amazon. It's only priced at $950, and this PC includes a GTX 1650, an i3, 500 gigabytes of storage on an SSD, and 8 gigabytes of RAM. And honestly, this PC looks pretty decent. The only thing I would change about it is the stock cooler. Maybe I'd go for a different one, but it's only an i3, so it doesn't really matter that much. But but besides that, pretty decent. You can't really go wrong with that. Next off, we have the PC at like the mid to higher tier level, and this one is cost at $1,200, and it has 16 gigs of RAM, 500 gigabytes of an SSD storage, an Intel i5 RX 6600 XT. Pretty decent specs for the price. Honestly, I'd say this is worth it. It's worth it for the cost of the parts. You're getting a lot out of it. Yeah, honestly, you can't really go wrong with this one. And lastly, we have the last PC on the list. This one is priced at $1,800, and this one is honestly a really good deal. It looks okay. The only thing I don't like about it is the power supply, which obviously you guys can change. You guys can always get extension cables. It doesn't really matter. That's not a hard fix. But besides that, it includes an i7 11700F, a GeForce 3060 Ti, and 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, as well as 1 terabyte of an M.2 SSD, and it has an AIO cooler. You honestly cannot go wrong with this PC. I feel like the price is really reasonable, and honestly, if I was getting a pre-built, I would just get this PC over any other one, because this graphics card alone, people would probably pay about $1,000 for at the moment. The whole entire PC being priced at only $1,800 seems pretty good. Okay guys, that is all I have for you today. Now I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and if you did, please make sure to subscribe down below, like the video, and comment down below your thoughts. And yeah, I hope to see you guys in a future video. I love you all. Peace.